All right. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where we have joined from. I want to thank everybody for being on board today. I want to thank everybody for linking with us on this event today, on this show today. It is tagged Legacy Hut with Akinropo. Today is the episode 39. Legacy Hut with Akinropo. Thank you, Mr. Wadejuibe, for joining. Thank you. We appreciate your time. I appreciate your resources, the energy that you have put in to always make yourself available on this important family and parenting event with Legacy Hut with Akinropo. So today, what topic do I have today? As many of you must have seen it on the video I sent out about 3 hours ago. The topic is dealing with parents' worst nightmare. Dealing with parents' worst nightmare. You see, when you look at our life as parents, when we look at our lives as, teachers, educators, or we look at our life, as adults around the children, we have this lifestyle that we are so concerned about the children under our care. We are so concerned about what is going to happen to them when we are not there. When they go to school, we are worried about some things, how the teachers will relate with them, how their friends will relate with them. When we are not around, even in the house, in the home, maybe, Madam Wendy, thank you for joining, ma. Thank you. I appreciate you. You've been a tremendous support for me and my organization, and I'm not taking that for granted. Thank you for coming on board. So when we look at that, when we keep our children in the house, even when we are not around, we have this phobia that, wow, I'm not here now, something is going to happen to them. We just naturally, intuitively, we have it. That's one of those things that has been handed over to us by our parents. That is just the natural tendency when we are not around. Even now that because of the age of technology, we have the phone around us, we have, everything, to connect, to control, not to control, to connect with them, to watch over them. Even I've met a parent that told me that he has this app that he watches over what the children do when he's not around. Anywhere he goes, even when he's abroad, he has this app on his phone that so the children can't really mess up. Though he allows the children to know that he has it, but he makes them to understand that it's for their safety. So anything that happens around the house, anytime maybe anyone wants to break in, wants to attack them, he will always know, and he will always know, what to do, the next step to take to control or to curtail that. That is how paranoid we can be at times as parents. So when you look at that is one of the aspects, that made us to develop nightmare when we are not around our children. Imagine that a father that thinks that he wants to be intentional enough about parenting, about fatherhood, he has to get an app just to monitor the children around in the house. So in case anyone wants to attack them, he will always know what to do at that particular time. I didn't tell him otherwise, but the only thing I try to do is to always send some of my articles to him. Because when you see a parent like that, to him, he appears intentional. But at the same time, that is, to me, is being extreme. Even that is the level of the extreme permissive. That is not really about, it's too much. I don't know whether to use this word, too much intentionality in that, So, and anytime I send him the article, he will always appreciate all those things. But I hope that by the time he comes back, he must have developed, enough knowledge to know that the app that he has on his phone is not really helpful. And I wish he joins this program, because he knows I always tease him about that app he has on his palm. So now, extreme permissive, exactly, to me, that's that. Because the children know that he has that. At times they talk, he makes them to understand that this is what you guys are doing now, and they just joke over it. But to me, these are adults. To me, they are teenagers. 18, 17, 14. Those are the children that are there. And the app can actually monitor them abroad as well. So that is what we're talking about. That's one of those things that made me to want to talk about this parent worst nightmare today, because our fears, really, worries and nightmares are valid, and at the same time they are understandable. I can really understand, but at the same time we can exaggerate these worries, we can exaggerate the fears and nightmares at times. This is exactly what this my friend has done, because it made me to understand that Nigeria is such in a mess, because of the security lapses. So he needs to really do what needs to be done to take care of the children, to watch over them, to protect them, and to really do the duty of care. Because he will always tell me, after all, aren't you the one that is always advising us that the duty of care. Now I'm doing the duty of care. You are telling me something else. The man is just something else anyway. So which means that the interpretation we give to this problem, to this worry, is actually the problem, not the nightmares themselves. The interpretation we give them really matters most. So that is why this topic is here now. Because when we look at all these nightmares, we look at the worries, we look at everything, the one that we just dealt with and we are still dealing with all over the world is COVID-19. COVID-19 is really a nightmare for all parents. Nobody can tell me that he foresaw this. No parent. So that's why, while I was doing the preparation, the first thing that came to my mind, and I went to this, to write stuff about it, to get more information about it, when I was talking about what nightmares, what worries, what fear can really, I listed some, and the one on the top priority is COVID-19. That is the one that cuts across every one of us. It's the one that cuts across every one of us. So when we look at that, we all saw that this is not what everybody expected. We're caught unaware. The children are with us. Some parents, became paranoid because they don't know a lot of things that may happen to the children because their neighbors are around, and at the same time there are some teenagers around, because the teenagers, the young youth, in the universities, they all came home. The university was shut. Almost everywhere was shut because there was no market. There are some boys on the streets, that parents feel that they don't get to see. God, they leave in the morning and they come back in the evening. The children leave in the morning, they come back in the evening, they lock their doors, nothing. But at a point, it got to a stage that some boys, were visiting some homes, right? They were visiting them, so every parent became paranoid that, wow, they just hope some of these boys will not break into their homes. So when all these things happened, what did we do? How were we able to really go over this issue of a worst nightmare that we ever experienced? The first one, that I said that the first one is COVID-19. So when we all see this, then the question is, how do parents fight this? In the video, I made mention that if there is any one of the parents that has any experience about any nightmare, maybe the person can just share with us. So we're still coming to that, that if any parent has any experience of worst nightmare, to share with us. But the worst nightmare that I believe every one of us had in time past, in the last 1 year, up till now, is COVID-19. So how did we get into this mess? We got into this mess because we over exaggerate, if there is a word like that, because we exaggerate. But if there is a word like over exaggerate, that is exactly what we did. That is exactly what we did. So in this section, I've explained what we think, or what the nightmare, worst nightmare is all about. Now, the causes of this nightmare, that is the segment that I'm in. I'm going to discuss about the causes. I'm going to discuss about the way out. Then the last one, I'm going to give us a kind of image representation of what we need to do just to ward off this worst nightmare. It could happen. Good day, Madam Ujisola. Good day, good day. Thank you for always being around. So what we're going to do, first segment we have, the first one, that is the worst nightmare that I've just explained. Example is the current COVID-19 that we are battling. Is a terrible example of worst nightmare. A lot of parents don't know what to do. A lot of parents just got to know many of the excesses of their children. But a lot of parents just got to know, the perceptual code. Okay, we are back. There was the thing, the network, there was just a mild network glitch. So, the causes of this nightmare. Okay, we're back. The network is okay now. So, when we experience this nightmare, and I did say there is no way we will experience this nightmare that our children will not get to know. They know when we are so much around them. They know when we are so much, into them. Like my daughter will always tell me that she can't just wait to leave me, because she told me that she tells me, almost every time that she's just, that I'm just too much around her. Let me just be open here. And I'm just too much around her. Daddy, I will call, how far? Then when I get home, and allergies, we talk. At times when she wakes up in the night, she knocks my door. Oh, Daddy, let's talk. There's something I want to run with you. Then I get out of the room and I meet her. Then we talk. So once in a while, she will just tell me that, Daddy, I don't even know why I'm so much into you. Please, in fact, I need to get out of this house. I need to get out. Let me just go and experience something else. That is what our children are doing. This is what I have prepared for. How many of us parents, is prepared to leave our children from age 17 to go and school abroad? That is a question. How many of us is ready, without blinking our eyes, that, when they just say that there is a scholarship now, or there is a school that just sent and sent our children, admission letter. Maybe they applied for it. Oh yeah, how many of us can be so happy that, wow, they are going to experience the world? These are the things. There are some parents that they still say it, that they can't allow their children, below age 20 to go and school abroad, even when they school here in Nigeria. So we always know, I'm so sorry about this network that keeps, disrupting what we are saying. So a lot of things that we need to get right. So when we exhibit this nightmare, when we are worried, like I did say, our worries are valid. They are valid and they are, authentic. They are valid and they are authentic, but at times we exaggerate this. But a lot of things that will happen when we do this is, number one, when adults are fearful. When adults are fearful around the children tend to when they are fearful, we tend to seize control over our children. When we nurse any fear, when we nurse worries over them, when we exhibit worst nightmare about them, about their well-being, about what will happen to them when they leave us, and when they leave us, we begin to trail them around. We begin to have app to watch over them. What are they doing? What we have unwittingly done to these children is we tend to seize control of their lives. Okay. So when adults are fearful, we tend to seize control of our kids' life. Then this drives us to the state of prescriptive and more controlling. Earlier on in this session, maybe like 3 weeks ago, I did mention about 2 nurturing methods that we have as parents. One of the methods is prescriptive method of nurturing. Prescriptive method of nurturing. What is prescriptive method of nurturing? Prescriptive method of nurturing is us, calling our children into our midst, and there is a problem. We now give to them. We give them the problem. We now tell them how to solve the problem. We disregard their own ingenuity. We disregard their own innate ability to solve problem. We just prescribe the problems. Is this. So we prescribed the solution to them. We just give it to them, follow this, like the normal way we have it in their schools. The way schools give it to them. They give them problem, they give them, subject, a kind of question. They tell them, and they give them a question or questions, and they tell them this is how to solve. That is being prescriptive. And when we go for prescriptive method of nurturing, we tend to want to control the lives of our children. We do not allow their innate ability to come into play. So descriptive method is us calling our children, calling the students, calling the learners on our table in the class, present the solution to them, then tell them to think of how to solve this problem. That is descriptive. But when we nurse this fear, we are being prescribing. We prescribe the problems, we prescribe the solutions unto them. That is what it will do. Therefore, we tend to seize control of our children. That's number one. That is what it will bring. The damage, the worst nightmare we have will bring to our children. Then the second one, our children will feel or assume external locus of control. What is external locus of control? What that means is they believe that external forces govern their lives. They believe that they can't really think on their own. So when we do that, they feel or assume external control, external locus of control. What that means is they believe that external forces will always govern their lives. So that means when they are not with us, they will always want to reach to us. That mom, dad, something happened now. What should I do? I'm not saying that they can't do that, but when they now tend to always do it all the time, it is because we have nursed fears about them, we have nursed worries about them, and we've displayed nightmares before them that, I can't allow you to do this, I can't allow you to do that, just because of what I suffered when I was raising you up. Right? I've mentioned about 2 now that will happen. The third one that will happen is when they experience external locus of control, when they see external locus of control around them all the time, anxiety will go up. Their anxiety will go up. I say that again, the anxiety will go up when they see that parents will always control them. Parents will always correct them. Parents will always hover around them, helicopter parenting. Parents will always get worried about them. When we tell them to go and do something, like we are worried about, wow, what is happening in the society now? I hope these children will not do this. I hope this thing will not affect them. All those things. Because like somebody said that 80%, if not about 90% of what we fear about don't really happen. Is because we have, in our own state of mind, defined that situation to not be a worry. It is just an event, but by our own ability. So, by our own ability to comprehend and define that particular event, we now made it to become our worries to us, to become fears, and to become our nightmares. So don't forget 3 things I have explained that will happen when we display these nightmares before our children. The first one is when adults become fearful, the children feel that we have given them the state of prescriptive method of nurturing and we control their lives. When we control their life, the second thing that will happen with this, they feel or assume external locus of control, meaning that they can't do anything without parents influencing them, which means that they can't do anything without, first of all, think or thought of external governance, right? Then the third one, when locus of control becomes so much around our children, their anxiety level will go up. The anxiety level will go. So those are the 3 things that will happen to them when we display this sense of worst nightmare around them. So the question is, what is the way out, or what are the way out of worst nightmares? What is the way out of parents' worst nightmare? Number 1, I have about 10 that I've listed here, but I'm going to give us maybe like 3, 4, or 5. Depending on how the time permits, because I still have something here I want to explain to us before we leave this event today. The first one that we must do in the face of worst nightmare is this. Let us first of all define that situation. What is the problem? What is my fear? Why the fear? Why the worry? What kind of definition do I give this? Take for instance, the children are some parents that have their children in the hostel, some parents that have their children in an institution, some parents that have their children abroad, schooling abroad, they're in the hostel, or perhaps maybe they are just in the house of a relative over there. So the next thing is, why the worry? What is it that I'm worried about? What brought about this worry? Write all those things down. Define it. Don't define it first by your mental ability. Define it from your heart. When you define it from your heart, you are settled down and you know what really is the problem. But if you use your head alone, your head will interpret a lot of things, because from your head comes other areas of information, social media, politics, religion, sentiment, all those things. That's when those ones will come to your head. But when you interpret all those things with your heart, it is pure. It is pure because you are able to sit down what really is the problem. Meaning that you are dealing with the supernatural. You are dealing with the supernatural. And from there, you'll be able to know what the situation is. Then number 2 is, from that situation, create a positive memory. From that situation, create a positive memory. Somebody told me some time ago that when someone, when we say somebody is wicked, I want to write story about that particular person. Maybe a leader, maybe a parent. The way the person explained to me was Stephen, explained the example he gave me was the example of their dad. When he wanted to write his own account of his dad, he remembered bad things about the experience he had with his dad. But when the younger sister wanted to write her own, the younger sister wrote something memorable about the man. So when they submitted it, they all came to a conclusion. By the time they now sat down in the house, the man was like, "Hello, my sister, what did you do? Were you trying to paint our father in a great light so that people could have a good memory of him?" And the sister said that is exactly what she has done. Because the fact that her dad or their dad did many terrible things in quote now doesn't really mean that she can't possibly bring out something positive about those memories. So our memory is as good as the interpretation we give the memory. That was when I learned that thing. When that man was having a conversation with me, that was when I learned it. And I quickly wrote that thing down. Immediately that thing dropped in my head, I quickly wrote it down. And that thing is, our memory is as good as the interpretation we give it. So what interpretation can we give that nightmare that we are going through? So concerning COVID-19, that is one of our worst nightmares. It was a nightmare to me. The first 2-3 months that thing started, it was. I was at a loss of what to do. I have 2 children. Not the 2 of them, could easily connect with online learning. The 2 of them have, different learning style. The first one, my daughter could cope, whether e-learning, audio learning, physical learning, virtual learning, anything he could cope. But my son cannot cope. My son is more of on-site person. He loves to see it happen physically. But here is a problem. There was a new normal. How do I get this guy, concentrate online? How do I do that? So it was a nightmare for me. An exam was coming, but we're able to solve the problem, right? So when we look at that, what that thing has taught me, the example of what that thing has taught me, that COVID-19, which was a worst nightmare to me last year, made me to understand my children and especially my son the more. I did not know that my son was not someone that could actually connect to learning virtually. I didn't know. I thought because he could hold phone, he could read books, he could read all those things, he could surf internet to research to all those stuff. I thought it's the same, that he could learn faster at the rate the sister does. No. So, regardless of the problem COVID-19 brought, regardless of the worst nightmare COVID-19 brought onto me, the memorable thing that I could do, I deduced, and I could bring out of that COVID-19, which was the nightmare to me, was the fact that I was able to understand the learning style of my children better. And going forward, we now have to do something that will encourage the boy to connect virtually, to learn at the same time, right? So take a positive memory out of that worst nightmare. That's number 2. Number 3, review the hardship of that worst nightmare. Review the hardship. So what can you do going forward? What can you do to prevent eventual occurrence? Remember, nightmare really it doesn't really mean something that has happened. It's something we imagined in our head, not from our heart. We imagine it from our head. So in case it now happened finally, the next thing for us to do, just review the hardship. Review the hardship and move forward. Then the next one is clarify the silver lining in the problem. Clarify the silver lining in the problem. And I will tell you what the silver lining I clarified in that COVID-19. While we were having that challenge with my son because of the fact that his inability to connect virtually. Then I began to research into what are the challenges that the COVID-19 could bring. Then at the same time, what are the challenges that people, could actually come up with. Then I look at some challenges that this guy had, Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton had so much challenges, coming up with his discovery. Several times, 100 times that he tried, he failed. But at the end of it all, he came up with a solution. That is the same thing I did for my son. He had a challenge connecting online, connecting virtually during the lockdown, which now made that thing a worst nightmare to me, right? But when I researched further, that who are those people that had problem, in bringing up solution to the demonstrable problems of the world, and I came across Isaac Newton. When I came across Isaac Newton, something dropped in my spirit, and I relate that with my son, and we began to do everything, very well, right? Then the last one, which I'm going to explain to us, is to bring out a metaphor to define the final solution. The last one is parents, teachers, educators must be able to bring out a solution in a metaphor form. Because what would that do? That will give every one of us, teachers, parents, that will give us a lasting image solution. And guess what? Why are we talking about image? We talk about image because anything that we define in images sticks to our brain much more than something that we see in physical realm. Much more than something we read, something that we read. But whatever that we have read, when we summarize it in image form, it will bring a lasting solution to the problem. What am I talking about? And I've come across this. That is 3 buckets. Parable of 3 buckets, which is the metaphor. And after that, I round off. This is what I have here. Remember, we are talking about parents' worst nightmare. Then I cited the ways out. The first one is define what that problem is. The second one is review the hardship that it brought. Then the third one is clarify the silver lining, even in that challenge. And I did say that I came across Isaac Newton problems. Many things he tried. To him, that was a nightmare. Many things he tried. Many experiments he carried out before the final solution. Then the last one is discuss the metaphor. And this is what I want to discuss here now. When I discuss the metaphor, we will be able to understand better how to solve the problem of parents' worst nightmare. Now, the first one is all these problems that we are talking about, put them in each bucket. There is a concept that will make us to solve them, but define them and put them in any of these 3 buckets. The first one is this worst nightmare within your control? Yes, the first one. Is the nightmare within your control? This is the first bucket. If it is within your control, or if those nightmares are within your control, what do? You initiate solution and take responsibility. Don't forget, 3 buckets concept says, define the problems, define that worst nightmare, and begin to put them, your definition, begin to put them in each of these buckets. The first bucket is the question you ask yourself, is it within your control? If it's within your control, what do? Initiate and take responsibility. The second one, out of your control. If it is out of your control, then trust the processes. Let me tell you what I did when I had that worst nightmare about my son. I knew that was not within my control. It was not within my control to bring COVID-19 experience to an end. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. And I'm not the person that sits on top of the World Health Organization, right? So it's not within my control. So if it is not within my control, what do? I trust the process of my parenting skill. Trust the process of your parenting skill if that nightmare is not within your control, right? Then the third one, which is it within your influence? Within my influence. If it's within your influence, then you need wisdom to solve the problem. If it's within your influence, if the COVID-19 worst nightmare could have been within my influence if I am a director or if I'm the head of World Health Organization, if I'm the head of any vaccine company, right? So if I'm the head, it's within my influence. Then I use wisdom to bring the worst nightmare to an end. This one, out of my control. If it's out of my control, trust your process. I'm telling you, parent, now, whatever the nightmare that you think you have concerning your children, if it is out of your control, trust the processes of your skill. Trust the processes of the events that you have attended. Trust the processes of the nuggets that you have gathered so far in all the books you've read, in all the events you've attended, in all the coaching you've attended, in all the all those right knowledge you got under mentorship in parenting, all those things you read on Facebook, those calls you could easily put across to your friends. To your fellow parent coach, because that thing is not within your control, but trust the processes. Then this one is within it. If it is within your control, then you initiate and take responsibility. You see, when we think of all this, when we look at this, we'll always know that worst nightmare, regardless of what it is, only at times happens in the realm of our definition, happens in the realm of our head, not in the realm of our heart, because it carries fears, it carries worries. And it is because we've been able to have the capacity to define what it is. It is an event, but we have been able, because of our knowledge, to define it. Through our definition, it becomes worries, it becomes fears, and it now grows to become worst nightmares that we nurse around. So on this note, I want to stop for now. If there is any contribution or someone wants to share with us any of the experiences he or she has had in the past, along the line of worst nightmare, let's share it together. Otherwise, this message is still going to be here for a while. We can still come back later to drop our points, to discuss anything that we want to say. Any question, I will always come back to it, and we can always share it together. So while I am waiting for us to contribute to this meeting, while I'm waiting for the questions, let me quickly say once again that Legacy Hut with Akinropo is currently on television. It's currently on Ovation International Television. Ovation International Television is on our TV decoder. Our TV decoder is free to air service. You only pay once for the decoder, which is 12,000 naira. Once you pay once and you get your decoder installed, every other program there, no monthly subscription. Every other program there is free. Football, Cartoon Network, entertainment, Nolly, both Nigerian, Nollywood and Hollywood. You get to catch them there. A nice documentary. You get to watch all of them. So that is what you get when you get our TV decoder. Most importantly, there are interesting and compelling topics around parenting and family, around career development, around women development, around youth development that I give them in that space. It's a nice, they are nice topics, very compelling and interesting. And all these topics came up as a result of researches I carried out on any topic involved. Like this parents' worst nightmare now. I've heard about this about 2 years ago that I knew I wanted to do this, but I knew that I've not had a personal experience. So any topic that I've not had any personal experience about, I will not be talking about them. I won't bring them to this place. I made sure that I have my personal experience of parent worst nightmare. That is why I'm able to bring out the solution for parents on how to tackle it. And that is one of the benefits of what we're seeing today. All these things that I was seeing today, I have spoken about here today, is a result of my own personal research that I did concerning what happened about my worst nightmare last year. And I'm able to overcome it. So if there is any other person that has the experience of his or her parents' worst nightmare, after now, because we have to go, we have to keep to time. This thing shouldn't take more than 45 minutes, 30 minutes of teaching, then 15 minutes of contribution and questions. So now we have done 45, 47 minutes. So it's still going to be here and we can all contribute later after now. So I want to appreciate everybody that has come on board. My good friend, Samos Official. Thank you for joining. Mrs. Babatunde Idowu Abisola, thanks for joining. Madam Mojisola, thanks for joining. Always, I appreciate you. Thank you. Madam Wendy, thank you. Annie Communications, thanks for joining. I appreciate everybody. So I'm going to draw the curtains on this show today, on this topic today. Parents' worst nightmare. Parents' worst nightmare. So it's going to be here. Let's have your contribution and let's have the questions so far. So thank you everybody, and let me apologize once again for the network glitches that we experienced so far. It has never been so. This is the first time for about 2 months that I have been doing this now. This is just about the first time that this glitch will come up. So thank you once again. We can still watch this. It's still going to be here for a while. Thank you.